The morning of my son's wedding dawned with a perfect blue sky that matched my crisp new dress shirt. My hands trembled as I adjusted my tie in the mirror, remembering when I taught Tyler how to tie his first one. For 20 years I raised him alone after his mother left us for greener pastures. Every sacrifice, every late night, every struggle had led to this moment. Pride swelled in my chest as I drove to the elegant beachfront resort. I was just a construction worker, entering a world of wealth and privilege. But today, I was the father of the groom, until I saw my nameplate. Low-educated fake dad. Before I tell you what happened next, let me know where you are watching from, and hit that like button if you have ever had to stand up for your dignity. My life changed forever when I was 24, and Tyler was just 2. I remember the sound of the door closing, as Amanda left us for a wealthy businessman she had met at her office. She said she needed more than the modest life I could provide with my construction job. No warning, no discussion, just a note saying she would not be coming back. That first night alone with Tyler was the longest of my life. He cried for hours, asking for his mommy, and I had no words to explain where she had gone. I held him until he fell asleep, tears streaming down my face, wondering how I would manage. In our bedroom that night, I made a silent promise that I would be both mother and father to my boy. The next day, I called my boss to explain my situation, packed our belongings, and found a small apartment across town that we could afford on my salary alone. The place was barely big enough for the 2 of us, with a kitchenette that had seen better days and a living room that doubled as my bedroom. But it was ours, and it was the beginning of our journey together. The early years were a crash course in single parenthood. I would wake up at 5 in the morning, prepare breakfast and lunch for Tyler, drop him off at the cheapest daycare I could find, and then head straight to the construction site. After 10 hours of physical labor, I would pick him up, cook dinner with whatever energy I had, help him with bath time, read him a story, and collapse into bed, only to do it all over again the next day. Cooking was a challenge at first. I burned more meals than I care to admit. I remember calling my mother in tears one night, asking her how to make chicken noodle soup because Tyler had a cold and refused to eat anything else. She patiently walked me through it, and that small victory felt like winning the lottery. Mrs. Hernandez, our elderly neighbor, became my saving grace when emergencies came up. She watched Tyler when he was too sick for daycare or when I had to work overtime. I remember one terrible night when Tyler spiked a fever of 103 degrees. I had to miss work the next day to take him to the doctor, which meant my paycheck would be short and the rent was due. The choice between bills and medicine was no choice at all. My supervisor Jack noticed my exhaustion one day and called me into his office. Instead of firing me as I feared, he offered me flexible hours and occasionally let me bring Tyler to the site after school when childcare fell through. Jack had raised 2 boys on his own after his wife died, and his understanding saved my job more times than I can count. As Tyler grew, I recognized that he had a natural intelligence that needed nurturing. His preschool teacher mentioned that he was already reading simple words, while other kids were still learning the alphabet. I spent evenings researching school districts, determined to find him the best education possible within our means. We moved when Tyler was 6, to a tiny duplex that cost more, but was in a district known for its excellent elementary school. The move meant I had to take night shifts 3 times a week to make up the difference in rent. On those nights, I would help Tyler with homework before leaving, then return home to find him asleep with his schoolbook still open beside him. In 3rd grade, Tyler became obsessed with a science camp that was well beyond our budget. I sold my prized Harley-Davidson motorcycle, the one luxury I had kept from my pre-fatherhood days, to pay for it. Seeing his face light up when I handed him the acceptance letter made every penny worth it. Despite my own limited education, having dropped out after high school to support my ailing father, I sat with Tyler every night as he worked through increasingly complex homework. When math problems became too advanced for me to help with, I checked out textbooks from the library and studied alongside him. Miss Andrews, his 5th grade teacher, pulled me aside at a parent-teacher conference to tell me that Tyler had remarkable potential and praised my dedication to his education. The teenage years brought new challenges. Tyler went through a phase at 14 where he questioned everything I said. We had shouting matches that left both of us frustrated and hurt. One night, after a particularly heated argument about curfew, I found him sitting on the front steps crying. He admitted he was embarrassed that his friends had expensive clothes and the latest gadgets, while he wore secondhand shirts and had a phone 2 generations behind. That conversation led to honest discussions about values, money, and what truly matters in life. Despite our modest means, Tyler excelled academically. By his junior year of high school, he had developed a passion for architecture, spending hours drawing building designs at our kitchen table. When college application season arrived, I worked double shifts to pay the application fees for 6 universities. The night we sat together submitting his final application, I felt a mixture of pride and terror about what would happen if he got accepted somewhere we could not afford. The day the scholarship offer from the prestigious Mercer University arrived was the happiest of my life until that point. Tyler burst through the door, waving the letter, shouting that he had received a full ride based on academic merit. We danced around the kitchen, like fools, laughing and crying at the same time. Driving him to college that fall was a bittersweet journey. We packed his belongings into my aging pickup truck and made the 6-hour drive in comfortable conversation. After helping him set up his dorm room and meeting his roommate, I gave him a long hug, told him how proud I was, and drove away with tears blurring my vision. The silence in our apartment that night was deafening. During his senior year at Mercer, Tyler called me one evening, his voice electric with excitement. He had met someone special, a girl named Sophia, who was studying environmental design. They had partnered on a sustainable housing project and had been inseparable ever since. My first thought was genuine happiness for him. My second was worry about what her family might think of us. I met Sophia 3 months later, when Tyler brought her home during spring break. She was everything he had described, intelligent, kind, and clearly from a background very different from ours. She treated our modest home with respect and seemed genuinely interested in the stories I shared about Tyler growing up. When she insisted on taking a photo of the macaroni art Tyler had made in first grade that I still had displayed on the refrigerator, I knew she was special. The dinner invitation to meet Sophia's family came that summer. Tyler warned me that the Aldridges were pretty well off, but nothing prepared me for the mansion in Westport with its manicured gardens and circular driveway. Harold Aldridge, a senior investment banker, greeted me with a firm handshake and searching eyes. His wife Eleanor offered a tight smile that did not reach her eyes as she welcomed me into their home. Throughout dinner, Harold peppered me with questions about my career, his emphasis making clear his opinion of construction work. When Tyler proudly mentioned my recent promotion to project manager, Harold responded with, "How novel that they promote from within for those positions." Eleanor was more subtle, but equally cutting, commenting on how Tyler was surprisingly refined, given his background, and asking if his academic aptitude came from his mother's side. When they learned I had raised Tyler alone, the exchanged glance between them spoke volumes. I swallowed my pride and remained polite, knowing that my son's happiness depended on navigating this relationship successfully. The morning of the wedding, I withdrew $500 from my savings account for the tailored suit I had ordered weeks before. It was the most I had ever spent on clothing, but today called for something special. I visited a barber shop for my first professional haircut in years, declining the usual $20 cut from my neighbor, who did it in his garage. Back home, I practiced tying my tie perfectly, remembering how I had taught Tyler the same skill before his first job interview. I packed a special gift in my jacket pocket, a framed photo of Tyler at age 8, sitting on my shoulders at a baseball game, both of us grinning widely, despite our team losing. On the back I had written, "The best team I have ever been part of is you and me. Proud of you, son." The drive to Ocean View Resort took 45 minutes, and I filled it with rehearsals of small talk topics to use with the wedding guests. I did not want to embarrass Tyler by seeming uncultured or awkward. As I drove, memories flooded back of teaching him to ride a bike, staying up all night with his science fair project, and our camping trips where we talked about life under the stars. The resort was more intimidating than I had imagined, a sprawling complex of white buildings with terracotta roofs overlooking the Pacific. Valets in crisp uniforms took guests' cars, and elegant flower arrangements lined the walkway to the main building. I handed my keys to a valet who looked at my 10-year-old Toyota with barely concealed disdain. Family of the bride or groom, asked a coordinator with a clipboard as I entered the lobby. The groom, I replied. "I am Tyler's father." A flicker of recognition crossed her face before she composed herself. Right this way to the family area, Mr. Kingston. The ceremony will begin in 2 hours. The family area was a luxurious lounge, where Sophia's relatives had already gathered. As I entered, several conversations quieted momentarily, before resuming at lower volumes. I found a seat near the window, nodding politely to those nearby. "You must be Tyler's father," said an older woman who introduced herself as Sophia's aunt. "We have heard so much about you." Her tone suggested they had heard things that were not entirely complimentary. Throughout the next hour, I overheard snippets of conversation about Tyler's background and references to his humble beginnings. One man asked me directly what neighborhood I lived in, then responded with an "ah" that dripped with judgment when I told him. Despite the discomfort, I was determined to stay positive for Tyler's sake. This was his day, not mine, and I would not let my pride get in the way of his happiness. The tension eased somewhat when Sophia entered the room. She looked radiant in her pre-wedding attire, and she made a beeline for me, wrapping me in a genuine hug. "Thank you for being here, Wayne," she said warmly. "Tyler is so happy you have come." Her sincere welcome gave me hope that perhaps the day would go better than I had feared. That hope grew stronger when I met some of Tyler's college friends who had arrived for the ceremony. They approached me with genuine interest, several mentioning specific stories Tyler had told them about our life together. "Tyler says you are the reason he got into architecture," said one young man who introduced himself as Michael. "He told us how you would take him to construction sites and explain the buildings to him." Another friend, Jason, added, "He talks about you all the time, Mr. Kingston, about how you worked double shifts to put him through school before he got the scholarship. He says everything he knows about work ethic he learned from you." Their words warmed me, and I began to relax, as Tyler appeared looking handsome and nervous in his tuxedo. He embraced me tightly, then pulled back to look at me with pride. "Dad, you look amazing," he said, straightening my tie slightly. "Thank you for everything. I mean it. Everything." I could see the emotion in his eyes matching the lump in my throat. "I am the one who should be thanking you, son. You have made every sacrifice worth it." For the next half hour, I helped calm Tyler's pre-wedding nerves as he fretted about his vows and whether he would trip walking down the aisle. It felt like old times, just the two of us against the world. "Family members, please make your way to the reception hall to check seating arrangements before the ceremony," announced the wedding coordinator. "We need to make final adjustments." I followed the other family members to a beautifully decorated hall where round tables surrounded a wooden dance floor. Crystal chandeliers hung from the ceiling, and fresh flower centerpieces adorned each table. It was more elegant than any place I had ever dined. Near the front of the room was a long rectangular table labeled "Family of Bride and Groom." I approached it slowly, admiring the gold-embossed nameplates at each setting. My eyes scanned the table looking for my name among the Aldridges. When I found it, I froze. Instead of Wayne Kingston or even father of the groom, my nameplate read, "Low-educated fake dad." I blinked several times, certain I had misread it, but the words remained elegant script carrying the cruel message. I picked up the nameplate, turning it over in my hands, as if looking for an explanation. My first thought was that it must be a terrible mistake, perhaps a placeholder, that was meant to be replaced with my real name. Then I heard laughter from behind a decorative screen near the table. I recognized Harold Aldridge's distinctive chuckle. I stepped behind a nearby column, the nameplate still clutched in my hand, and heard Harold speaking to Eleanor and another man I did not recognize. The investigator confirmed it. Harold was saying, "This Wayne character cannot possibly be the boy's real father. There is simply no genetic explanation for how a construction worker with a high school diploma could father a boy with Tyler's intellectual capabilities." The mother refused to speak to our investigator, but I suspect she had an affair with someone of actual substance. Eleanor's voice chimed in. "I told you, darling. The boy must come from better stock. No one transitions from that background to Mercer University on merit alone. There must be someone else's DNA at work. At least Sophia will be marrying the son, not the father," said the third voice. "Though I still think she could have done better. Old money always recognizes its own." "The nameplate was a bit much," Harold Eleanor said, though she was still chuckling. "What if someone sees it before the server, replaces it with the proper one? Just a little private joke, my dear. No harm done." My stomach churned as their words sank in. They had investigated me. They had questioned my paternity. They had reduced 20 years of sacrifice and love to a joke on a nameplate. And worst of all, they believed Tyler's achievements could not possibly be connected to me. I retreated to a bathroom stall, the nameplate still in my hand, fighting waves of nausea and humiliation. The beautiful day had turned ugly in an instant. In the privacy of the stall, I allowed tears of anger and hurt to fall. After composing myself, I stood before the bathroom mirror, staring at my reflection. Who was I looking at? A man who had given everything for his son, or the low-educated fake dad? The nameplate proclaimed me to be. I saw flashes of memories bandaging Tyler's scraped knee after he fell off his bike, staying up until 3 in the morning, helping him finish a science fair project, celebrating when his building design won a school competition. For a moment I considered leaving quietly. I could call Tyler later, make up an excuse about feeling ill, spare him the drama on his wedding day. He and Sophia could have their perfect ceremony, without the complication of the Aldridge's cruelty being exposed. But leaving felt like admitting they were right, like declaring that I did not belong in my own son's life. I splashed cold water on my face and took several deep breaths. I would avoid confrontation and focus on Tyler's happiness. The Aldridge's opinion of me did not define my worth as a father. I had just decided to return to the main area when the bathroom door opened and Tyler walked in. "Dad, are you okay?" The coordinator said she saw you heading this way, looking upset. "I am fine, son," I lied quickly, pocketing the nameplate. "Just a little overwhelmed by everything. It is a big day." Tyler's eyes narrowed. He knew me too well to believe that explanation. "Dad, what is going on? And what are you hiding in your pocket?" "It is nothing, Tyler. Today is about you and Sophia. Let us focus on that. Show me what is in your pocket, Dad." His tone was firm, reminding me of the determined little boy who would not give up until he understood how engines worked or why the sky was blue. Reluctantly, I pulled out the nameplate and handed it to him. I watched as confusion gave way to shock and then to rage as he read the words. "Where did you find this?" he demanded, his voice tight with anger. "It was at my place at the family table. I overheard Sophia's parents talking. They hired a private investigator to look into our background. They think I cannot possibly be your real father because you are too smart to be the son of someone with just a high school education." Tyler's face transformed with fury I had rarely seen. "This ends now, Dad." "Tyler, please," I begged, grabbing his arm. "Do not make a scene. This is your wedding day. Let it go. Let it go." His voice rose. "After everything you have sacrificed for me, after the life you gave me, no. This ends now, Dad. I am not letting them disrespect you this way." Before I could stop him, Tyler marched out of the bathroom and into the pre-ceremony gathering area where guests were beginning to assemble. I followed helplessly, knowing my son well enough to recognize there would be no stopping him. The room fell silent as Tyler held up the nameplate for everyone to see. Sophia rushed over from where she had been speaking with the photographer, her expression changing from confusion to horror as she read the words on the nameplate. "Would someone like to explain this?" Tyler asked, his voice carrying across the now silent room. Harold stepped forward, a tight smile on his face. "Now, Tyler, that was just a private joke that was never meant to be seen. Someone must have put it out by mistake." A joke. Tyler's voice was dangerously calm. "You think insulting my father is funny?" Eleanor laughed nervously. "It is all a misunderstanding, dear. Of course we respect your background." Sophia moved to stand beside Tyler, her face pale. "Mom, Dad, what have you done?" Harold's expression hardened. "We had concerns, Sophia. Legitimate concerns about Tyler's origins. We hired someone to look into his background." "You?" What? Sophia's voice cracked with disbelief. "We needed to know who we were welcoming into our family," Eleanor insisted. "You cannot blame us for wanting to ensure suitable family connections, and your investigation led you to believe that Wayne is not Tyler's real father." Sophia asked, her voice rising with indignation. "The evidence speaks for itself," Harold said dismissively. "A construction worker with no college education simply cannot produce offspring with Tyler's intellectual capabilities. It defies genetic logic." Several guests shifted uncomfortably. The wedding coordinator hovered nearby, clearly uncertain how to proceed with the ceremony while this drama unfolded. "This is who you are," Sophia asked her parents, tears welling in her eyes. "This is the example you want to set," Tyler stepped forward, placing himself between me and the Aldridges. His voice shook with emotion as he addressed not just them but everyone in the room. "Let me tell you about my father," he began. "When my mother left us, I was 2 years old. She walked out and never looked back, chasing a richer man and a more glamorous life. My father was 24 years old, working construction with no family nearby to help. He could have given me up, decided raising a child alone was too much. Instead, he built his entire life around giving me opportunities he never had." Tyler's voice grew stronger as he continued. "This man worked 60-hour weeks, then came home and helped me with homework. When I was 8, he sold his Harley-Davidson motorcycle, the only luxury he had, to send me to science camp because I was interested in engineering. He never bought another one." I felt tears sliding down my cheeks as my son detailed sacrifices I had never expected him to notice. "When I was in high school, my dad worked double shifts to help me apply to colleges, then took the night off to help me submit my applications. The night I got my scholarship to Mercer, he cried harder than I did because he had been saving every spare penny for my education since I was born." Tyler turned to face the Aldridges directly. "One Christmas when I was 12, he sold his professional tools and worked with borrowed equipment for 6 months so he could buy me the drafting table I wanted. He attended every school event despite working exhaustion, sitting in the audience in his work clothes because he did not have time to change." His voice broke as he continued. "Everything I am, every achievement, every value I hold, comes from this man. He taught me that worth is not measured by degrees or bank accounts, but by how you show up for the people you love." Then he turned to me, tears in his eyes, and said the words I will never forget. "Dad, let us show everyone what real family looks like. I want you standing beside me at the altar, not in the audience, not at the family table, but right beside me as my best man." The next few minutes passed in a blur of emotion and action. Tyler's announcement created an immediate stir among the guests and wedding party. "You cannot do that," Harold protested. "The arrangements have been set for months. Andrew is the best man." He gestured to Tyler's college roommate who stood nearby looking uncomfortable. Actually, Andrew stepped forward. "I would be honored to share the role with Wayne. Tyler has told me for years that his dad is his hero." Sophia took Tyler's hand firmly in hers. "I support this change completely." Harold's face reddened. "If you insist on this disruption, we will be forced to reconsider our financial support for this wedding." Without hesitation, Sophia reached into her purse and pulled out a check which she handed back to her father. "Here is your money back. We would rather have a wedding built on respect than one paid for with conditions and cruelty." The gesture sent whispers through the assembled guests. Harold looked stunned, clearly, not expecting his daughter to choose principles over his money. What happened next amazed me. Several guests stepped forward, offering to help rearrange the ceremony setup. Tyler's friends immediately began moving chairs. The photographer suggested natural spots for new family photos. Even the wedding coordinator, after an initial moment of panic, began redesigning the processional to accommodate the changes. I noticed Sophia's younger brother Thomas quietly helping, despite disapproving glances from his parents. Several of Sophia's relatives chose to stay, when the Aldridges and a few close family members stormed out. The wedding was transforming from a showcase of wealth to a celebration of authentic commitment. The ceremony itself was more beautiful than I could have imagined. Standing beside my son at the altar, watching him commit his life to Sophia, I felt a pride that no insult could diminish. When the officiant asked who supported this marriage, I gave the blessing that was meant for the father of the bride, speaking from my heart, about love that survives challenges and grows stronger through adversity. At the reception, I found myself approached by guests who had witnessed the earlier confrontation. Many expressed respect for how Tyler had handled the situation. Several of Sophia's relatives apologized privately for the Aldridges' behavior. "My brother has always been status-obsessed," said Sophia's Aunt Martha. "It has cost him more than he knows." When the time came for toasts, I stood nervously, unaccustomed to public speaking. But looking at Tyler and Sophia, I found the words. When Tyler was little, he asked me what made a family real, I began. I told him that real family is built choice by choice, day by day, showing up even when it is hard. Today I have seen that lesson come full circle, as Tyler and Sophia choose to build their own family on a foundation of integrity and love. I could not be prouder of the man my son has become and the partnership these two are creating. After the toast, Sophia embraced me tightly. "Thank you, Wayne," she whispered, "for raising the man I love and for teaching him what matters. I hope you know that you are my family now too." Dad. That single word, Dad, filled a space in my heart I had not known was empty. During a quiet moment in the celebration, I gave Tyler the framed photo I had brought. He read the inscription on the back and hugged me fiercely. "Still the best team," he said. Later in the evening, I was surprised when Sophia's grandmother approached the Aldridges, who had returned for the reception after some apparent soul-searching. "In our pursuit of status, we have forgotten what truly elevates a family," she told them sternly. "That man raised a son any family would be proud to claim. Your investigation found nothing because there was nothing to find except 2 decades of love and sacrifice." The weeks following the wedding brought unexpected developments. Tyler and Sophia returned from their honeymoon, determined to establish clear boundaries with her parents. But when I suggested that permanent estrangement might bring regrets later, they agreed to consider a path toward reconciliation. That path began with a tense dinner at a neutral restaurant. Harold offered an awkward but seemingly sincere apology, admitting that his concerns about Tyler's background had been misplaced and inappropriate. Eleanor was more emotional, confessing that her prejudices stemmed from her own insecurities about coming from modest beginnings before marrying into wealth. "I was projecting my own fears," she admitted. "I spent years trying to prove I belonged in Harold's world. I was wrong about you, Wayne, and I am truly sorry." The conversation marked the beginning of a gradual reshaping of family dynamics. At subsequent gatherings, I noticed the Aldridges making genuine efforts to connect without judgment. Harold even asked my advice about a renovation project at their lake house, acknowledging my expertise in construction with newfound respect. The experience transformed me in ways I never expected. I had spent years feeling slightly inferior in certain circles, conscious of my limited education and blue-collar occupation. But standing in my truth that day showed me that authenticity strengthens rather than damages relationships worth having. I realized that my low education had provided wisdom the Aldridges' expensive degrees had not, the understanding that character is built through challenges, overcome, not advantages inherited. My years of hands-on parenting had taught me lessons no classroom could convey. Tyler's public defense healed decades of quiet self-doubt I had carried. Those moments when I had questioned whether I was doing enough, giving enough, being enough for my son, all answered in the most powerful way possible. I now carry a confidence into every situation that comes not from credentials or achievements, but from knowing my own worth. The bond between Tyler, Sophia, and me has grown deeper through the crucible of that wedding day. What the Aldridges intended as humiliation became the foundation for a stronger, more authentic family connection. We three understand each other in ways that transcend the usual in-law relationships. The greatest lesson I have taken from this experience is that fatherhood is measured not by biology or education or wealth, but by presence. By showing up day after day with love that remains steadfast through all circumstances, true dignity comes not from others' approval, but from living authentically and loving wholeheartedly. Have you ever had to stand up for yourself when others doubted your worth? Or discovered that what seemed like your greatest disadvantage actually gave you strength? Others lacked. Share your story in the comments below. And if this resonated with you, please hit that subscribe button and like this video so others can find it too. Thank you for listening, and remember, it is not credentials that make a parent but love and sacrifice. Until next time, hold your head high and know your true worth.